Welcome to this webinar from the Centre for Advancing Practice. My name is Richard Collier. I'm the lead for the Centre for Advancing Practice, and the purpose of this webinar is to talk you through the Centre's supported ePortfolio route. This presentation is going to be recorded, so those of you who are unable to attend on this occasion, I can see there are 116 people, which is impressive at the moment. But there'll be this will be recorded, and there'll be a link on the Centre for Advancing Practice website. So I'm just going to share the presentation, which you'll be able to see in a minute. Those of you who can have access to the chat function will be able to add questions, and you'll see that there's an opportunity for questions and answers coming up. So let me just run through this presentation. So the purpose of this webinar is to introduce you to the supported ePortfolio route, and I'm using the acronym SPR on this occasion. I want to talk a little bit about what is the supported ePortfolio route, who's it intended for and who not, how to apply, and what are the stages. If you're watching this on record, on catch up, then this I believe will be on HE's YouTube channel, and so there's the function at the bottom of that to put your questions in, and we'll go and look at that once it's been live for a little while. We will answer questions on the YouTube channel, or we'll add them to our frequently asked questions, which is a link on the HE website. So that's the plan. So let me just talk a little bit about the supported ePortfolio route, and really I just wanted to answer the question, why are we offering this? And often when we look at these sort of questions, we ask it, what's the problem that we're intending to address? And many of you will be aware that in 2017, HE published the multi-profession framework for advanced clinical practice in England, and used the acronym MPF for that in this presentation. At this point in time, there were a number of ways in which we could operationalise this particular framework. We've coined the expression recognition of education and training, and recognition of education and training equivalence as two routes by which you as practitioners might be able to demonstrate that you meet the requirements of this framework. We're also cognizant of the fact that many regions have frameworks that preceded this particular framework, and that the other 12 nations have their own frameworks. But this is specifically for the English nation. So we've got these two routes by which you as an individual might be able to achieve recognition. One is successful completion of a centre accredited advanced practice programme, and you may well be aware that we're well on the way to accrediting many of the programmes that are in existence. And then there's this portfolio route that was talked about, and that is really a recognition of your education and training equivalence. And you achieve that by successful completion of the Centre's supported ePortfolio route for advanced practice. So that's really what the purpose of this webinar is about. So what is it? Well, it's a way for you to achieve recognition of education and training equivalence. The supported bit is that we've commissioned a number of education providers. These would be typically universities or professional bodies, to provide you with support in the process of putting together a portfolio, having it assessed and updated, and having any learning needs identified. So it's supported in the following way. The Centre for Advancing Practice will provide you with an ePortfolio. That's available via the Centre's portal. I'll talk about that in a little bit. Your ePortfolio can then be reviewed, assessed and updated as required. Your learning needs can be identified, and where appropriate, learning is offered and assessed. It's deemed equivalent to the learning required of a full ACP MSc, but it's not the same. This is notion that it's equivalent to. And I mention that because some people have said that putting together a portfolio of evidence might be deemed a not such an onerous task as completing a full MSc. In many respects, it's possibly a little more onerous because there's not really the structure around it that you might expect for a full MSc. So the effort required to put a full MSc portfolio together is not insignificant. It's recognised as a valid mechanism for evidencing your multi-professional framework capabilities. You can use that evidence in practice. It's a route recognised by the Centre for Advancing Practice. It's a valid transferable currency, and what we intend to do, you may have heard me present at the Congress and conference recently, that we're enabling digital badges and passports for as evidence for successful completion of this route and successful completion of the accredited program route. And there's no direct cost for you at this point in time. So this route is being offered free at the point of delivery for practitioners for this point in time. Who's it intended for? Well, this is the sort of description of the intended recipient. The first is you're an experienced advanced clinical practitioner working in an ACP role providing NHS commissioned services. By NHS commissioned services, we're talking about secondary care, we're talking about those services provided in primary care and other environments. But it's important that at this point in time that this is provided for NHS commissioned practitioner services. You will already have a substantial portfolio of evidence that fully or significantly maps to the multi-professional framework. You will have identified what gaps there are in your portfolio of evidence and how these will be filled. So typically, you might look at the multi-professional framework and say that you map to most of the requirements, but there may well be some gaps. And for this particular supported or portfolio route, we would expect you to be able to fill any gaps within an academic year. And I've put here, so for example, it's unlikely to be more than 30 M-level credits, but that will be a conversation you'll have if you're successful with the education provider. You will have the support of your manager and a potential supervisor lined up should you require any supervision, and you're currently registered with a statutory regulator. All of these requirements you'll find on the application process once it goes live, and you'll find all this detailed in the frequently asked questions. This is where it becomes a little more less straightforward. Who might the supported portfolio route not be suitable for? It might not be suitable for you if you successfully completed a non-centre accredited advanced clinical practice programme from 2017 onwards, as these programmes will likely seek centre accreditation in due course. So our programme accreditation team are working through those the post 2017 programmes. And it's likely that those will seek centre accreditation over the next few years, and so it's suggested that you might want to wait if your ACP degree was post 2017, when it's anticipated that those programmes will have utilised the 2017 framework that I referred to at the beginning of this presentation. Second group of individuals are those that have been credentialed or accredited by a professional body or another organisation as an advanced practitioner or similar. And just to let you know that we've been, right from the start of the creation of the centre, been in negotiations and conversations with a number of organisations to see to what extent we can have dual recognition with those organisations. And typically they use terms like credentialed or accredited. So there may be some questions about that in due course. It's not intended if you've already successfully completed a centre accredited programme. We are in the process of listing those programmes that we've accredited, and they will be available on the HE Centre for Advanced Practice website. We've looked at just under 50 programmes to date, and so that list of accredited programmes will be made available. And so one of the things that I suggest you do first of all is to look at that list and see to whether the programme that you completed has been accredited already, and if it has, you will be able to apply through the centre portal for recognition of that education. If you're not a statutory regulated professional, this is not for you. If you're not currently working in an advanced practice role, and if you don't have the support of your manager or the time or capacity to complete any additional learning identified. So what are these stages in this supported portfolio route process? Well, I've identified 4 stages: the preparation stage, application stage, allocation stage, and completion stage. In brief, the preparation stage is that you will make some preparation for your application. The application phase is you'll submit that application. The allocation phase is that we will allocate individuals to education providers. And the completion phase is that your education provider will support you through the process. I want to say at this point that you'll see in a minute that the deadlines and dates are really quite tight. But I want to make the point that the allocation, we will continue to allocate on a regular basis. You'll see some dates coming up in a minute. We will make them in a number of rounds until we have allocated all the places that we have available. So the preparation, well, from now you can start to prepare for the application for the supported portfolio route, and the preparation is that you meet the general requirements. You'll see that those are detailed on the application page on the HE's Centre for Advancing Practice website that relates to this particular route and this presentation. You will already have a substantial portfolio of contemporary evidence, and you might want to start looking at that. You need to scrutinise the multi-profession framework, identify that and how you can evidence all the capabilities. So it's really going through those 38 capabilities and asking yourself the question, how would I evidence these components, these capabilities of the framework, and start to organise that evidence in such a way that you'll be able to upload it in due course. Try and identify areas where the evidence is missing or limited, and consider how you would meet any shortfall. So, for example, there may be some additional learning or modules or clinical practice that you might wish to undertake to complete all the requirements. And talk to your manager about this, seek their approval. The application will open on the 13th of December. So that's when the window will open. I believe it's going to open around midday on next Monday. So we'll do this, as I mentioned earlier, in a number of rounds. Once the application is open, you will have until midday on the 14th of January 2022 to submit your application. So what I put here, so there's no immediate need to complete the process. And I appreciate some of you will be gasping at this moment, thinking that's an incredibly tight turnaround to get the application in that short period of time. And I acknowledge that it is. But as I said, we will do these allocations in a number of rounds. The last point here is, if we don't fill all the places in the first round, we will leave the application process open, and we will make that clear on the centre's website. The actual date when the first tranche of applicants will be looked at will be after the 14th of January 2022, so that's next year. So if you're somebody who meets the requirements that I outlined in the slide beforehand, you may feel confident that you could get an application sorted out in due course to meet that date. If you don't, then it might well be worth you waiting, might be submitting after that date, and your application will be dealt with, because provided that we haven't allocated all the places by that point. As I said, the allocation will be post the 14th of January. And we will look at all those applications received by that date, and we will allocate as necessary. We have capacity of up to 3,000 places to allocate. Which is one of the reasons why we're reasonably confident that we will be able to run a number of rounds. One of the things that we don't really know at this point in time is actually how many individuals are out there in practice who might fulfil the requirements of the supported portfolio route. I'm anticipating that over Christmas and in the middle of a pandemic, we won't necessarily have 3,000 individuals who will submit in the first round. But if you are ready and you're able to do so, I suggest that you get that application in due course. We will leave the application process open if we've not been able to allocate all available places, and we will review frequently. The allocation, so what are we going to be basing our allocation on? We will be allocating on the basis of your identified learning needs, your professional background, and your NHS region. You may be allocated to an education provider such as a university and/or an appropriate professional body. At this point in time, we're still in the process of allocating out the contracts to those providers, and any of you who've been involved in procurement processes will realise that there's a certain amount of information that I can't give out at this point in time until those processes are fully complete. So at this point, I don't actually know who all those allocations have been made to, but we will have the capacity of up to 3,000 places, and we'll allocate places until we've allocated those. What's likely to be the outcome? If you're successful at the allocation stage, you will be told you've been successful. You'll be told which allocation provider will be supporting you, and at that point you will be given access to the centre's portal. Access to the Centre's portal will give you the ability to complete and submit the learning needs analysis, which will help you and the education provider identify your specific learning needs. You will then be able to start your ePortfolio and the critical narrative on the Centre's portal. What I hope that I've illustrated here is that the application process is about you identifying specifically what your learning needs are, what the gaps are. It's not a learning needs analysis, which is a much more detailed process that we'll ask you to go through if you're successful at this stage. If you're unsuccessful at the allocation stage, we will give you some limited feedback, but you will be able to make an application in subsequent years. What we will not allow is multiple applications within the same within this year, within this same round. The Centre's ePortfolio is accessed via the Centre's portal. So if you get through the allocation phase, it will allow you to upload and build the evidence in multiple formats. And it will enable you to create your critical narrative. And the critical narrative draws together and integrates the components of the multi-profession framework. The critical narrative requires you to map your evidence to all the capabilities of the multi-profession framework, and that provides evidence of your critical writing skills and that you can evidence all the capabilities of the multi-profession framework. But you won't be doing that until after you've successfully been allocated. So in terms of the deadline, it's getting that application application in place. When we go live on Monday, we will put a template for what the application form will look like, so you can see the sort of questions that we're likely to ask at the application stage. What I'm talking about here is post the application stage. So this is what you will do if you are successful in that allocation. And completion. So the completion phase is that, and this will likely happen over a period of time. And this phase is iterative, and it's likely to take place over perhaps up to an academic year. You'll be offered the opportunity for your learning needs analysis, your ePortfolio, and your critical narrative to be assessed or analysed by an education provider. And it might lead to the discussion of the outcome of your learning needs analysis. And it's possible at this stage, although unlikely I would have thought, but possible, that your learning needs analysis will identify a significant amount of learning needs that will be impossible to complete in an academic year. It will help you provide and improve and build on your ePortfolio. It will help to support and improve your critical narrative and your academic writing. And it'll offer additional learning opportunities that the learning needs analysis has identified and is achievable. As part of the contract we have with the education providers, there's monies available for you to undertake modules of learning that are identified by your learning needs analysis that will support your ePortfolio, support you demonstrating you map fully to the multi-professional framework and can be reasonably completed in a reasonable length of time. And that will be also driven by you and whether you have the capacity to successfully complete a period of learning in the period of time available. The completion of your ePortfolio might lead to a number of outcomes. You successfully complete the process as agreed with the education provider. The education provider will then make the centre aware that they have recognised your education training equivalence. And you will then be able to apply through the centre's portal for that recognition to take place. If you're unsuccessful through this process, you'd obviously be offered feedback by the education provider and provided with suggestions as to how you might improve on your ePortfolio and that body of evidence so that you can submit an application in subsequent years. We're trying to make sure that this process is iterative and support you.